Hello everyone, and welcome again to a Shortstop with a Shortstop. We're going to talk a little bit about speech today, a little bit about the tongue, a little bit how we should be able to talk and converse with other people.
And the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall arise. No more sorrows someday.
There was a time in our locker room at Candlestick Park in San Francisco that Vida Blue had just not pitched a really good game. And fortunately, a couple of my teammates overheard a TV reporter. He was talking to his cameraman. And he was behind the door, but my two teammates were listening, and they heard him say this: "As soon as I get Vida Blue riled up, you make sure that you have it on camera so that we can have our ratings to get a little bit better." But that wasn't a good thing to do, to try to come in and somebody had a bad game and you're going to say something to them to try to get them riled up to just make their TV station get a better rating or more people would watch it. But fortunately, I'm not going to mention his name, but I do know him. The TV reporter that worked in the San Francisco area, he was escorted out of our locker room. It helped save Vida from blowing up. It helped him from being made to look bad on television, which that was all it was going to do. And but those are the type of things that shouldn't ever happen, especially to Christians. A Christian should never, ever say that they're going to say something to somebody to try to provoke them to anger or anything of that kind. In Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 18, it says that the tongue speaks good and the tongue speaks evil. So we have an option to be able to speak either way that we want to speak. And we should always take the high road and talk to other people, again, the way that we want to be talked to. In Proverbs chapter 17 and verse 20, it says, "A perverse tongue falls into mischief." And this reporter was going to do nothing but try to get Vida Blue to fall into mischief. And we don't want to treat our friends that way. We don't even want to treat our enemies that way. We always want to talk to people properly and give them adequate courtesy and everything that we possibly can say. The tongue in James chapter 3 and verses 5 through 8, it says, "Now if we put a bit into the horse's mouth so that they will obey us, we direct their entire body as well." Here you have a horse, but you have a little tiny thing that's going into its mouth. And it's going to direct, you pull left, it's going to go left. You pull right, that horse is going to go right. And it says, "Look at ships also, though they are great and are driven by strong winds, are still directed by a very small rudder whenever the inclination of the pilot desires." And you have a rudder at the very back of the ship, and it gets turned right or left, and it will direct where that ship is going to go. But it's a very small piece when it compares to the rest of that ship. And it says, "So also the tongue is a small part of the body, and yet boasts of great things. See how great a forest is set aflame by such a small fire." Can you imagine just a match being struck and it can just put up just a little bit of a flame, but yet it can set a whole forest on fire and cause a lot of destruction. "And the tongue is a fire and very world of iniquity. The tongue is set among our members, as which defiles the entire body, and sets the fire of course of our life, and is set on fire in hell." Now listen to this in verse 8. It says, "But no one can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil and full of deadly poison." So we have a chance or an opportunity to everybody that we speak to, we can either speak good or we can speak bad. And we always want to try to be that type of person that speaks good to other people, because the tongue can cause a lot of mischief. It can cause a lot of hurt. And sometimes we need to realize that what comes out of our mouth, we can't put it back in. What are some of the ungodly uses of the tongue? Well, in 1 Timothy chapter 5 and verse 13, it talks about gossip, tattletellers, and busybodies. What is gossip? Most of the time, gossip, 50% of it is not true. And the other 50% is a lie. So if you want to hear something about somebody, go to that person themselves and ask. What are busybodies? Busybodies are people that go from one person to another person to another person and tries to cause strife or tries to spread gossip or spread lies or just plain old out and outright rumors. And that's not right. God says that that is a sin. And we don't need to do stuff like that. And we need to be that person again that's going to use our tongue and our speech in a good way. In Colossians chapter 3 and verse 9, it says that lying is something that we don't want to do. In Revelation 21:8, if you go and read that, it says that all liars will be in hell. And that's not me saying that. Now, what would be some of the godly uses of the tongue? In Psalms chapter 19 and verse 14, it says, let the words of your mouth be acceptable. When you talk to somebody, talk to them the way you want to be talked to. Treat your neighbor as yourself. Love your enemy. Love your brother. Talk to them with a seasoned tongue. Young kids, teenagers, college kids, if you're on a baseball team, a football team, or a basketball team, or any kind of team, if you want to be a leader, talk to your teammates the way you want to be talked to. Pat them on the back when they've done something wrong. Tell them it's okay, you're going to pick them up. Be a leader. The ones that usually try to tell people how good they are probably are not good. If you're good, people are going to tell other people, and let them do it. You don't have to brag on yourself. And lastly, but not leastly, let's all turn to James chapter 1 and verse 19. This you know, my dear beloved, but everyone must be quick to hear and slow to speak and slow to anger. So we have 2 ears. That's double what we got as far as a tongue. If we got 2 ears, let's be slow to speak, but let's be quick to hear. And then let there be no anger. The less anger we got, the better off this world's going to be. Use your tongue with grace and with season, and things will be a whole lot better in this life for you and for everybody else around you. Be a leader. Thank you again for being with a Shortstop with a Shortstop.